माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधवा, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ, जय गिरिवर धारी, जय गिरिवर धारी, जय यशोदा नंदन, जय ब्रज जन रंजना, जय यशोदानंदन, जय ब्रज जन रंजना, जय यशोदानंदन, जय ब्रज जन रंजना, जय यशोदानंदन, जय ब्रज जन रंजना, जय यमुना तिरवनचारी, जय कुंज बिहारी, 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जाए। जगन्नाथ बलेश्वर माय की जय, नरसिंह भगवान की जय, पंच तत्व की जय, षड गोस्वामी की जय, गुरु परंपरा की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की, श्री गुरुदेव टैगोर हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत्. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God in Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, Hare Krishna, Prabhupada, welcome all of you. Today we'll be discussing from third canto, 27th chapter, verse number 15 and 16. I'll just share the screen to you. So this is third canto, 27th chapter, verse 15 and 16. So this chapter is entitled Understanding Material Nature. Previous chapter was fundamental principles of material nature. Now understanding the material nature. So this is going on. So let us recite this verse. Manyamanas tadatmanam anashto nashtavan mrisha nashte hankarane drashta nashta vitta ivaturah manyamanas tadatmanam anashto nashtavan mrisha nashte hankarane drashta nashtavitta ivaturah manyamanas-tadatmanam anashto nashtavan mrisha nashte hankarane drashta nashtavitta ivaturah. Anybody wants to recite Prabhuji's and Mataji's?
Hare Krishna, may I?
Yes.
Manyamanas-tadatmanam anashto nashtavan mrisha nashtahankarena drishta
Nashta ahankarane.
nashti ahankarane nashta ahankarane drishta nashta vitta ivaturaha.
Go to the word to what meaning.
Hare.
Manyamanaha, thinking. Tada, then. Atmanam, himself. Anashtaha, although not lost. Nashtavat, as lost. Mrisha, falsely. Nashte ahankarane, because of the disappearance of the ego. Drashta, the seer. Nashta vittaha, one who has lost his fortune. Eva, like. Aturaha, distressed. Translation and purport by Divine Sri Ramchandra ki jai. Please hear the translation and purport. The living entity can vividly feel his existence as a seer. But because of the disappearance of the ego during a state of deep sleep, he falsely takes himself to be lost. Like a man who has lost his fortune and feels distressed, thinking himself to be lost. Purport. Only in ignorance does a living entity think that he is lost. If by attainment of knowledge, he comes to the real position of his eternal existence, he knows that he is not lost. An appropriate example is mentioned herewith. Nashta vitta ivaturaha. A person who has lost a great sum of money may think that he is lost. But actually, he is not lost. Only his money is lost. But due to his absorption in the money or identification with the money, he thinks that he is lost. Similarly, when we falsely identify with matter as our field of activities, we think that we are lost. Although actually, we are not. As soon as a person is awakened to the pure knowledge of understanding that he is an eternal servant of the Lord, his own real position is revived. A living entity can never be lost. When one forgets his identity in deep sleep, he becomes absorbed in dreams, and he may think himself a different person or may think himself lost. But actually, his identity is intact. This concept of being lost is due to false ego, and it continues as long as one is not awakened to the sense of his existence as an eternal servitor of the Lord. The Mayavadi philosophers' concept of becoming one with the Supreme Lord is another symptom of being lost in false ego. One may falsely claim that he is the Supreme Lord, but actually he is not. This is the last snare of Maya's influence upon the living entity. To think oneself equal with the Supreme Lord, or to think oneself to be the Supreme Lord himself, is also due to false ego. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Now let us listen this next verse, 16th verse. Evam pratyavamrishyasa atmanam pratipadyate sahankarasya dravyasya yovasthanam anugraha evam pratyavamrishyasa atmanam pratipadyate sahankarasya dravyasya yovasthanam anugraha evam pratyavamrishyasa Atmanam pratipadyate sahankarasya dravyasya yovasthanam anugraha. Any Matajis or any Prabhus, anybody can want to recite.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. May I Prabhu?
Yes, yes.
Evam pratyavam rishyasav atmanam pratipadyate sahankarasya dravyasya yovastanam anugraha. Hare Krishna.
So we'll go the word to word meaning. Evam, thus, pratyavam shishya, after understanding, asav, that person, atmanam, himself, pratipadyate, realizes, sahankarasya, accepted under false ego, dravyasya, of the situation, yaha, who, avasthanam, resting place, anugraha, the manifester. Translation and purport which Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So please hear. Translation. When, by mature understanding, one can realize his individuality, then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest to him. Purport. The Mayavadi philosopher's position is that at the ultimate issue, the individual is lost. Everything becomes one, and there is no distinction between the knower, the knowable, and knowledge. But by minute analysis, we can see that this is not correct. Individuality is never lost. Even when one thinks that the three different principles, namely the knower, the knowable, and knowledge, are amalgamated or merged into one. The very concept that the three merge into one is another form of knowledge. And since the perceiver of the knowledge still exists, how can one say that the knower, knowledge, and knowledgeable have become one? The individual soul who is perceiving this knowledge still remains an individual. Both in material existence and in spiritual existence, the individuality continues. The only difference is in the quality of the identity. In the material identity, the false ego acts because of false identification. One takes things to be different from what they actually are. That is a basic principle of conditional life. Similarly, when the false ego is purified, one takes everything in the right perspective. That is a state of liberation. It is stated in the Ishopanishad that everything belongs to the Lord. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Everything exists on the energy of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Because everything is produced of his energy and exists on his energy, the energy is not different from him. But still, the Lord declares, I am not there. When one clearly understands one's constitutional position, everything becomes manifest. False egoistic acceptance of things conditions one, whereas acceptance of things as they are makes one liberated. The example given in the previous verse is applicable here. Due to absorption of one's identity in his money, when the money is lost, he thinks that he is also lost. But actually, he is not identical with the money, nor does the money belong to him. When the actual situation is revealed, we understand that the money does not belong to any individual person or living entity, nor is it produced by man. Ultimately, the money is the property of the Supreme Lord, and there is no question of its being lost. But as long as one falsely thinks, I am the enjoyer, or I am the Lord, this concept of life continues, and one remains conditioned. As soon as this false ego is eliminated, one is liberated. As confirmed in the Bhagavatam, situation in one's real constitutional position is called mukti or liberation. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Gyan Tivrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisheshunyavadi Pachakadeshatarane. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yanta Pravishya Mamavacha Imam Prasuptam Sanjeevayati Akila Shakti Dharasvadamna Anyam Chahasta Charana Shravatvagadin Prana Namo Bhagavate Rushai Tubhyam Mukam Karoti Vacha Bangam Nagrit Krivatam Namo Shtu Vishtu 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 Mahashva Samastani Namo Shtu Vishtu Vishtu. So Hare Krishna, Prabhu Mataji, thank you very much for joining and keeping the appointment Krishna today. So we'll be discussing these words and try to understand what we can learn and practically apply in our lives. See, we are actually not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are not human beings on a spiritual journey. But we are all spiritual beings on a human journey. You know what is misery? When we do not have what we desire, and when we have what we do not desire, that is called as misery. Understood? When we do not have what we desire, and when we have what we do not desire, this is called misery. So we have to get rid of this. I want, I am the enjoyer, I do this, mine. Till that stage is there, then definitely misery will always be following you. See, there's a in this chapter only, 327, the 7th verse is a very instructive verse, where in the translation it says, in executing devotional service, one has to see every living entity equally, without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connections with anyone. See, one has to observe celibacy, be grave, and execute his eternal activities, offering the results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada explains each point, especially what he explains is what does he explain about equal? Equal means, see, because each and every soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita is said, because he is equal, part and parcel. So he does not see any difference. And enmity, a devotee has no enmity towards any living entity. But that does not mean that he mixes with everyone. That is prohibited. See, in 329.16 of purport of Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says, although a devotee sees all living entities on the level of spiritual existence, he is not interested in associating with everyone. See, Prabhupada, very nice example he gives the purport. Simply because a tiger is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord does not mean that we embrace him because of his spiritual relationship with the Supreme Lord. So we must associate only with persons who are level Krishna consciousness. And the another word is aprasangata. Aprasangata means not to be intimate, in intimate touch with everyone. See, a devotee is concerned with his execution of devotional service. Okay. And he should therefore mix with devotees only in order to advance this objective. He has no business mixing with others. But although he does not see anyone as his enemy, his dealings are only with persons who engage in devotional service. But Guru Maharaj told us that there should be no intimate relationship with even devotees also. See, we have an intimate relationship with only with devotional service. See, but for devotional service, we never come together. And such intimate connection, even so with so-called devotees, is aprasangata, forbidden. See, if devotional service is absent, as such intimate connections, right, be it karmi or devotee, it is condemned. That's why in Bhagavatam 1, 1st canto, 5th chapter, 15th verse, where Narada Muni, he chastises Vyasadeva. He's telling, because Vyasadeva read so many Vedas, Upanishads, so many is written. So Narada Muni is chastising him. He's telling, the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy. And you have encouraged them in that way, in this name of religion. This is very condemned. And it's quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions. Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva, they are guided under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion. And will hardly care for any of the prohibitions also. Right? So from the purport, Prabhupada very nicely says, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment. Very beautifully he says, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. Such diversions of the human energy results in a misguided civilization. We can see everywhere nowadays, right? See, under the name of devotional service, we intimately associate with each other, okay? But mostly what happens, we come together just for entertainment, sense enjoyment. In fact, this is just devotional show, which is jugupsitam, means verily condemned. And such intimate connection comes under the category of aprasangata. See, the devotee who does not discriminate, no, what does he do? He is not inimical to anyone. And is also not intimate with anyone. So these 2 points are actually explained by Lord Kapila in another verse. 327:7 he says, in executing devotion service, one has to see every living entity equally. And that too without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connections with anyone. This is Lord Kapila is telling, right? So one has to observe celibacy, be grave and execute his eternal activities, offering the results to Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? We just saw before. So Prabhupada, he elaborates on the 3 important points in this verse. First one is seeing everyone equally. See, a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who seriously engages in devotional service, is equal to all living entities. See, there are various species of living entities. But a devotee does not see the outward covering. He sees the inner soul inhabiting in the body. Because each and every soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So he does not see any difference. So that is the vision of a learned devotee. And to have this quality of equivision, we should not judge anyone. Who gave you the post of being a judge? Right? So he sees everyone as trying their best to serve Krishna according to their own capacity. So the best way to do this is to actually follow Acharya's words, instructions, and see everyone as pure devotees, except ourselves. See, the person sitting next to you, he is a pure devotee. Right? So in this way, the devotee will hold everyone in high regard and will not discriminate on who to show more respect and who to show less respect. No. See, Prabhupada, once we were asked, Prabhupada, how to identify a devotee? He said, accepting you, everyone else is a devotee. So this is a very deep meaning in that, right? That's the first point. So service, seeing everyone equally. Second is no enmity towards anyone. See, a devotee has no enmity towards any living entity, but that does not mean that he mixes with everyone. That is prohibited. See, due to his equivision, no, a devotee never shows enmity towards anyone. Okay. So whether anyone treats him badly or nicely, devotee is equal to both. He's never biased towards the person. Right? He's never biased towards the person who's glorifying him. Or show less interest in the person who criticizes him, offends him. No, he always sees the hand of the Lord in everything that happens. And does not consider the person who offended him to be the doer. In this way, he will never hate the other person. So the third point is not being intimate with anyone. Not to be in intimate touch with everyone. A devotee is concerned only with his execution of devotional service. And he should therefore mix with devotees only in order to advance his objective. He has no business mixing with others. So devotee with equation and without inimical feelings to others is a balanced devotee. So in this balanced state, devotee is never intimate with anyone also. So when the devotee mixes with another devotee, Krishna and devotional service is in the center. See, we find that if 2 people come together with their relationship solely based on material grounds, there are bound to be differences. And the relationship eventually breaks down. But by keeping the eternal Lord, Sri Krishna, and the ever bliss giving devotional service in the center, the relationship actually flourishes. So this does not mean that the devotees don't share their problems and seek advice from another person. No. See, when we approach a devotee about anything, what we get in return is always Krishna consciousness. Because the devotee only speak about Krishna. Mixing with the non-devotees, even though difficult to avoid, should be kept to the minimum in order to achieve the desired good. One should only try and mix with devotees, not turn to others as far as possible. But it's not possible in this middle. But still, whatever minimum requirement, right? So I would see the Avadhuta Brahmana in Bhagavatam, while speaking to Prahlad Maharaj, gives us the way in which one can achieve all these points with regards to relating with another person through this verse. 7th canto, 13th chapter, 42nd verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Please hear the translation. Different people are of different mentalities. If everyone is of the same mentality, no problem. No, the Prime Minister could have got everybody together in one go. But different people are of different mentalities. Therefore, it is not my business either to praise them or to blaspheme them. I only desire their welfare, hoping that they will agree to become one with the super soul, the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. So this chapter, 7th canto, 13th chapter, in which this verse comes, is titled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. This chapter is titled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. So by following this verse, our behavior and thus our relationship with others will always be perfect. Sudama and Krishna, they studied in the same Gurukul during childhood. But after that, Krishna went to Dwaraka, and Sudama, being a Brahmana, led a very simple and honest life. He was married and had children. Now, in spite of his poverty, he never wanted to ask Krishna for any material benefits. If we have a very rich friend, we'll go and, right? So when his wife asked him to go to Dwaraka to get some help from Krishna, he went with the only motive to have a darshan of his dearest friend. See, however, the Lord surprised his queens and other servants at the palace, by personally serving Sudama. When he welcomed him, personally served him, embraced him, washed his feet. Then after personally offering him food and so many other wonderful things, Krishna began to recollect the good times which he spent with Sudama in the Gurukul. That's what we are when we meet our friends, school friends after a long time. We always discuss about those things, right? Although we are in the school, maybe about 15, 20 and all, but when you're 60, 70, when you meet the same school friends, how wonderful you feel. You always recollect those wonderful moments, correct? So Krishna then very lovingly snatched the bag of chipped rice which Sudama's wife had sent for Krishna. Because Sudama was hiding it behind. He didn't want to read because he was hesitant to give such an insignificant gift to the Lord. But Krishna accepts whatever is given with love. Patram pushpam palam thoyam, he says, whatever you give, this water, flower, just with love, if you give, I'll accept it. No need for chapanbo. So he happily ate a morsel of chipped rice from that bag. See, Krishna did not give any gift in return to Sudama also when he was in the palace. Return gift, but there's no return. But later, when Sudama reached his home, he could see how Krishna had miraculously transformed his hut into a royal palace. It has blessed his family with all of us. So this is the transcendental sweetness of Krishna's friendship. And he gives this opportunity to all of us, unrestricted. He's giving it to us, but we are not accepting it. We don't realize that. Because that means we should be satisfied with whatever we have. Then we'll be happy. That means we have been given whatever is we deserve. But more of the greed, no, not possible. So Prabhupada mentions, if one makes friendship with Krishna, one will never be cheated. We should make Krishna our best friend because he is the only one who will stay with us, no matter whatever be our position. Right? Time immemorial, is always along with us. Even when we leave this body also, he will be along with us. He's the only one. So in the material world, people want to become friends only if a person is beautiful or wealthy, correct? And if they are appreciating us. But Krishna does not see any such qualifications. Hanumanji, in the Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 19th chapter, 7th verse, beautiful verse. Najan manonam mahato na saubhagam navana buddhir na kritistosh hetu karyad vishrishtan apino manokashas chakara sakhe batalakshmanagraja. Beautiful. See, hear the translation. Now Hanumanji is telling, see what he is telling. One cannot establish a friendship with the Supreme Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities, such as one's birth in an aristocratic family, one's personal beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Ramachandra. And he was telling, Hanumanji is telling, otherwise, how is it possible that although we uncivilized inhabitants of the forest, no good dresses and all, right? They have not taken noble births. Although we have no physical beauty, although we cannot speak like gentlemen, we are not MBAs. Lord Ramachandra has nevertheless accepted us as friends. So Krishna, he does not see any material qualification to have friendship with him. To be friends with Krishna, we should simply love him with all our hearts. And he will reciprocate more than that what we deserve. See, why did Krishna give Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. He spoke the confident knowledge because he says, because you are my devotee and you are my friend. So if you become a devotee and Krishna's friend, Krishna takes over. Then you don't have to worry about anything. That's why he says, Sarva Dharman Parityeja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. 18.66 Bhagavad Gita, he says, just surrender unto me. Do not fear. I will take care. It's a guarantee which Krishna is giving, but we don't have faith. But we have faith in the guarantee of so many other things, like the material things like iPhone is there, fridge is there, they give guarantee card. Fine, that's all temporary, 5 years, so like this. This is eternal guarantee Krishna is giving. So an intelligent person, he tries to establish friendship with the Lord and his devotees. So we should also establish friendship with the Lord's devotees, especially our Guru, who are our ultimate well-wishers, unlike material people. Because the Guru engages us in the service of the Lord, and they are genuine friends. To be Krishna conscious, we should remember 3 basic things. How to be Krishna conscious? Just remember these 3 basic things. Number 1, we can remember, number 1 is no anxiety. 2, no uncleanliness. 3, not much eating. So first one is no anxiety, A. Remember this A. Then second is no uncleanliness. Remember U. The third is not much eating. Remember M. A, U, M. So no anxiety. We should stop our anxieties once for all. Just don't be anxious. Krishna says, we should be completely anxiety free, leaving everything in the hands of Krishna. So that is no anxiety. Second is no uncleanliness. See, we should be completely clean both inside, that is the mind, and outside the body. So as long as our mind is simple, it will be clean. But when we complicate things, then our mind becomes unclean. Simple and straightforward thinking, eating simple foodstuffs, sleeping in simple manner without too much of foam, home bed, this thing, so many things, then keeps our body and mind very clean and healthy. The third is not much eating. Just even prasadam, more and more. Overeating has to be avoided. We should not stuff food inside our body as if it is a garbage truck. We should eat only those food items that are easy to digest and healthy and that are offered to the Lord. Correct? See, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15.14, 14th verse, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashita. Vaishwana means I am the fire of digestion. So Krishna is the fire. So we can know what we are eating. Afterwards, what happens in the stomach, we don't know. So Krishna is, so we should be very careful. So if you have any stomach problem, anything, decide this verse 15.14. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Pranyam Deham Ashitaha Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachamiyannam Chaturvidam. Right? This is for the digestion. So if you are having remembrance or memory difficulties, this is the 15.15 verse. Sarvasya chaham vidisannivishto matasmatirajnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarverahameva vedyo vedanta kridveda videva chaham. This is very, Krishna says, I am the one who gives you forgetfulness as well as remembrance. So I should be known after reading all the Vedas. So this is what Krishna is telling in this 15 point. So if you want remembrance, this verse, good for even the students, right, who are going to write exam. When the question paper comes right in front of you, at that moment you should remember, right, even though you are studying. So you should say this verse right, before going to exam. So Krishna will prompt you at the right moment. So if see these 3 things, A, U, M. If you remember these 3 things, then it is a sound representation of Krishna. Om. Om, right? In this way, we can always stay close to Krishna. So these 3 things are nicely mentioned in one of the instructions of Kapila Muni to his mother, where he says, for his income, a devotee should be satisfied with what he earns without great difficulty. He should not eat more than what is necessary. He should live in a secluded place and always be thoughtful, peaceful, friendly, compassionate, and self-realized. So if you are satisfied with whatever is obtained without great endeavors, then we will become completely anxiety-free. Second, to possess a clean body and mind, we should be peaceful, shanta, thoughtful, muni, friendly, maitra, and compassionate, karuna, with all the living entities, and then self-realized, atmavan. So a devotee should not eat more than what is necessary. The more we eat, the more we run into the doctors. So if we follow these basic rules in our day-to-day lives, then definitely we will achieve success in our endeavors, both material and spiritual. Okay. See, in the 7th canto to 2nd chapter, 40th verse, in the translation, Prabhupada says, sometimes one loses his money on a public street, okay, where everyone can see it. You lost maybe about 100 rupees or 500 rupees the road. Everyone can see it also. Yet his money is protected by destiny. How? By not being seen by others. Others may not be able to see. They didn't see. So it is protected. So the man who lost it, he gets it back. On the other hand, if the Lord does not give protection, even money maintained very securely at home is also lost. So if the Supreme Lord gives one protection, even though one has no protector, as in the jungle, but still one remains alive. Whereas a person well protected at home by relatives and others sometimes dies, no one being able to protect him. So these are the examples of the supremacy of the Lord. See, our plans to protect or annihilate do not act. But what are the Krishna things of doing actually happens. So the examples given in this regard are very practical. See, everyone has had such practical experiences. Okay, there are so many also other very examples. See, for instance, Prahlad Maharaj said that a child is certainly dependent on his father and mother. But in spite of their presence, the child is harassed in many ways. Sometimes in spite of a supply of good medicine and an experienced doctor, a patient does not survive. So since everything is dependent on the free will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, our only duty is to surrender unto him and seek his protection. See, the example that the sinful person suffers just like a man who has lost his wealth. The human form of body is achieved by the conditioned soul after many, many births. And this human form is a very valuable asset. See, instead of utilizing this life to get liberation, if one uses it simply for the purpose of maintaining his so-called family and therefore performs foolish and unauthorized actions, he is compared to a man who has lost his wealth and who, upon losing it, he laments. See, when wealth is lost, there is no use in lamenting, but as long as there is wealth, one has to utilize it properly and thereby gain eternal profit. It may be argued that when a man leaves his money earned by sinful activities, very nice point to understand. See, if somebody argued that when a man leaves his body, but he has earned his money by sinful activities, then people say he leaves his sinful activities also here with the money. But it is especially mentioned that by superior arrangement, although the man leaves behind him his sinfully earned money, he carries the effect of it. When a man steals some money, please, the example is this, when a man steals some money, if he's caught, now he agrees to return that money. But he's not freed from the criminal punishment, correct? So by the state, law of the state, even though he returns the money, he has to undergo the punishment. So similarly, the money earned by a criminal process may be left by the man when dying, but by superior arrangement, he carries with him the effect. Therefore, he has to suffer hellish life. So, Prabhupada says in one of the lectures, our Krishna conscious movement is to give people a chance to take advantage of the Vedic literature. So there is a very nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, wherein it says, that is Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 20.117. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external feature from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. We do not know when we have forgotten Krishna, when we have missed our relationship with Krishna. We do not know. But we are eternally related with him. We are still related. Our relationship is not lost. See, just like the father and son, the relationship cannot be lost. But when the son becomes crazy or mad, he thinks that he has no father. That is a conditional. Actually, the relationship is not lost. The relationship is not lost. So when he comes to the consciousness, oh, I am the son of such and such gentleman, the relationship is immediately connected. There, it's there. So Vasudeva Bhagavati. So surrender to Krishna means to become spiritually active. See, sometimes the Mayavadi philosophers, they think that when we become Brahman, Brahman realized. We become one with the Supreme. Then all our activities stop. No, that is not the fact, Prabhupada says. The fact is, we are now materially active. And when we finish our material activities, then our spiritual activity begins. You cannot make the living entity as inactive. That is not possible. Because we are living, no, we are not stones. How can I be inactive? That is not possible. Inactivity is for the stones and irons. But we are not stones and irons. So these Maya, the philosophers, they think to stop activity is the highest perfection. No. Prabhupada says our philosophy is to stop foolish activities and begin real activities. That is bhakti. Bhakti is not stopping activity. Therefore, we are engaging our devotees in so many activities. They are all spiritual activities. Spiritual activity is known as bhakti. Prabhupada in one of another lecture, he says, so our Krishna conscious movement is equal to we don't stop activities. See, don't think that we are creating some lazy fellows. No, we have got our activities. So just like this propagation of Krishna consciousness, we are using everything, right? Right from morning, getting up for Mangalati, till the night, the Lord is put to sleep, right? Till that time, full activities are there. See, some foolish person says that if you are advanced in spiritual consciousness, why you are using material things? But the foolish person does not know that there is nothing material. Actually, there is nothing material. Material means when you forget the center, that is material. When you forget Krishna, when you are doing activities, this is material. Just like the same thing. See, in the sky, there is the sun. Okay. It is always there. You can see. But when there is cloud, you cannot see the sun, correct? Now, where from this cloud comes? Cloud also comes from the sun. Not that cloud is an external thing that comes. But when the cloud comes, you cannot see the sun. Similarly, the cloud-like substance is Maya. So when Maya covers your eyes, you cannot see Krishna. You cannot know God. But as the cloud comes and goes, that means it is not permanent feature in the sky. Similarly, Maya may come and also go. So the process to be known is how to drive away Maya. So how to drive away Maya? There are so many processes. How to be cleansed, right? Means something that is covering my eyes. I have to cleanse it. This is called Cheto Darpana Marjan. See, Maya is also in the heart, no? How it is? The same thing. I am servant, but I am thinking I am the master. This is Maya. I am actually serving. Actually, so like just like businessman, no? Actually, businessman also, he is serving. He says he's always busy. He's serving his customer, he's serving his clerks, managers, secretaries, so many. So unless he satisfies everyone, his business cannot go on. So actually, he is serving. So we go to see a big businessman in his home. He say, my dear sir, I have no time to see you now. Why? Because I'm serving. He's thinking that I am the master, but he is busy in service. So that is, he has no time to see anybody. Now, if he is the master, why does he say that he has no time? He must have immense time. But he has no time because he is actually engaged in service. So this is Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So when you cleanse your heart, you will understand that I am thinking that I am the master, but actually I am serving. This is cleansing of the heart. So when we actually realize our identity as Brahman, our life becomes successful. See, presently we are all identifying with the body. But as long as we do so, we are no better than cats and dogs. Although we may have a considerable amount of scientific knowledge. See, conditioned souls consider the body to be the self. And because of this, the jivas identify themselves as I am American, I am Indian, I am Brahmana, I am Kshatriya, I am a man, I am a woman, so on. So thinking in these body terms, people consider their wives and children to be theirs and the land of their birth to be worshipable. People are willing to fight and die for their country. See, presently everyone is laboring under this delusion. But in order to understand our spiritual identity, we must find the proper guru. So realizing our identity means realizing that we are Krishna's eternal parts and parcels. That we are very minute, very infinitesimal. And that we have perpetual and eternal relationship with Krishna. So just as part and parcel, a part has a relationship to the whole. At no time we can be as great as Krishna. Although we are the same, qualitatively we are the same, but quantitatively not possible. See, in 6th canto, 16th chapter, 53 and 54 verse. Prabhupada says, when a person is in deep sleep, he dreams and he sees in himself many other objects, such as great mountains, beautiful rivers, even the entire universe, although they are far away. Yeah? Now sometimes when one awakens from a dream, he sees that he is in a human form, lying in bed and in one place. Then he sees himself in terms of various conditions, as belonging to a particular nationality, this family, and so on. See, all the conditions of deep sleep, dreaming, and wakefulness, they are all but energies of Supreme Personality of God. So one should always remember the original creator of these conditions, the Supreme Lord, who is unaffected by them. See, the purport beautifully Prabhupada says, none of these conditions of the living entities, no, namely the deep sleep, dreaming, and wakefulness, it is none of them are substantial. See, they are simply displays of various phases of conditional life. See, there may be many mountains, rivers, tigers, trees, snakes that are situated far away. But in a dream, one may imagine they are very nearby. Similarly, as one has subtle dreams at night, when the living entity is awake, he lives in gross dreams of nation, community, society, or having a big skyscraper building, bank balance, position, honor, right? So under circumstances, one should know that his position is due to his contact with the material world. One is situated in different positions in various forms of life. They are all creations of the illusion energy, which works under the direction of Supreme Lord Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is the ultimate actor. And the conditions of all living entity should simply remember this original actor, Krishna. So we are being carried away by the waves of Prakriti, nature, right? Which works under the Lord's direction. Maya dakshena Prakriti, suyate swa characharam. So our only duty is to remember the supreme director of Krishna. And for us to do this, what the Shastras advises, Hare Nama Vikevalam, Kalo Nasya Nasya Vanasya, Katirinata. We should constantly chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Supreme Lord is revealed in three different phases, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. But Bhagavan is the ultimate realization. So one who realizes Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the most perfect Mahatma. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So in the human form of life, one should understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then only one will understand everything else. See, according to this Vedic injunction, simply by understanding Krishna, one understands Brahman, Paramatma, and Prakriti, and spiritual energy, everything else. Everything will be revealed. So Prakriti, the material nature is working under the direction of Supreme Lord. And we, living entities, are being carried away by various phases of Prakriti. So for self-realization, one should always remember Krishna. As it is stated in Padma Purana, we should always remember Lord Vishnu. We should never forget the Lord. This is the perfection of life. See, the living entities are actually beyond this covered inferior energy. See, they have their pure spiritual existence, pure identity, and pure mental activities, all beyond the manifestation of this material cosmos. See, although the living entity's mind, intelligence, and identity are beyond the range of the middle world, when he enters into this middle world, due to his desire to lord it over material nature, his original mind, intelligence, and body becomes covered by the material energy. And when he is again free of the covering of this material inferior energy, he is called liberated. So when he is liberated, he has no false ego. But his real ego again comes into existence. So foolish mental speculators, they think that after liberation, once the identity is lost, that is not so. Because the living entity is eternally part and parcel of Krishna. And when he is liberated, he revives his original, eternal part and parcel identity. So the realization of Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit, not this body, does not mean that the living entity loses its identity. Not possible. So at the present moment, the person may consider himself to be matter. But in his liberated state, you will understand that he is not matter, but spirit soul, part of the infinite. So to become Krishna conscious or spiritually conscious and to engage in transcendental loving service of Krishna are the signs of a liberated stage. That's why in 1:10:21 purport, Prabhupada says, The merging of the living beings into the body of Mahavishnu. Please listen very carefully. The merging of the living beings into the body of Mahavishnu takes place automatically at the end of Brahma's 100 years. That is during the annihilation. But that does not mean that the individual living being loses its identity. The identity is there. And as soon as there is another creation by the supreme will of the Lord, all the sleeping, inactive living beings are again let loose to begin their activities in continuation of past different spheres of life. It is called Suptotita Nyaya, or awakening from sleep, and again engaging in one's respective continuous duty. See, when a man is asleep at night, he forgets himself. He forgets what is his duty, and everything of his waking state. He forgets when he is in sleeping state. But as soon as he awakens from slumber, like sleep, he remembers. He remembers all that he has to do, and thus engages himself again in his prescribed duties. So living beings also remain merged in the body of Mahavishnu during the period of annihilation. But as soon as there is another creation, they arise to take up their unfinished work. So this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.18 and 19. So in everyone's life, there are two duties. One to serve the illusion, and the other is to serve the reality. So when one serves the reality, he is a real sannyasi. So when one serves the illusion, he is deluded by Maya. See, one has to understand that he is in all circumstances forced to serve. Either he serves the illusion or reality. The constitutional position of living in it is to be a servant, not a master. See, one may think that he is the master, but he actually is a servant. See, when one has a family, he may think that he is the master of his wife, master of his children, master of the home, business, so on. But this is all false. One is actually servant of his wife, of his children, and his business. See, the president or prime minister may be considered the master of the country, but actually he is a servant of the country. Our position is always a servant, either a servant of illusion or a servant of God. So we remain the servant of illusion means our life is wasted. Of course, everyone is thinking that he is not a servant, correct? That he is working only for himself. Although the fruits of his labor are illusory, they force him to become a servant of illusion or a servant of his own senses. That means we are not a servant of senses. But when one awakens to his transcendental senses and actually becomes situated in knowledge, then he becomes a servant of the reality. So when one comes to the platform of knowledge, he understands that in all circumstances, he is a servant. Because it is not possible for him to be master. He is much better situated serving the reality instead of illusion. See, when one becomes aware of this, he attains the platform of real knowledge. See, Prabhu's Mataji is, everyone in the material world is full of thoughts about how to maintain his family, how to protect his wealth. See, we plan various ways to keep our wealth secure, correct? In the form of investments, property. When only Krishna knows if we are going to enjoy our hard labor in future or not. Only he knows. But all our attempts will soon be washed out when death grabs our life here. We forget that we have to die one day. There is no escapism in case of death. We have come and we have to go. We are fools to think that now we will earn enough money. Then when we become old, we will enjoy it. Anything in this middle world can't be enjoyed for long. Anything in this middle world can't be enjoyed for long unless it is used in the service of Krishna. There's a very nice story which illustrates our foolishness. Once, a sadhu sitting underneath a tree with some of his followers, he was speaking Krishna Katha and doing kirtan. So the king of that country, he happened to pass by, followed by his ministers, many people in a grand procession. So the king looked at the sadhu and asked his minister, who is he? What is he doing? The minister said, Maharaj, he is a Mahamurkha. He has no intelligence and he creates only disturbances. Now the king went ahead, but at that night he thought very deeply, oh, there is some fool in my kingdom. Who is the greatest fool? I will reward him. He's telling now, there is a fool. Who is the greatest fool in my kingdom? I will reward him. So the next morning, he called his minister and gave him a gold coin. He said, this is the reward for the greatest fool in my kingdom. So the minister went around asking various people, are you a murkha? People laughed and no one was willing to accept that he was a fool. So after searching for the whole day, not finding anyone, he was tired and he was very morose. So he finally came to the sadhu, who was chanting peacefully. So on inquiring, the minister told his difficulties, agony of not finding any fool and feared that king will punish him. So sadhu said, why should the king inflict punishment on you? All right, I am the greatest fool. So the minister immediately gave him the coin. And the sadhu, what did he do with the coin? He threw it into the garbage. Minister thought that sadhu threw the gold coin in the garbage. Definitely he is the greatest fool. So finally, minister reported the whole incident to the king. A few years passed, and the king was on his deathbed. This sadhu went to him. And so on seeing the king lamenting, he told the king, you are going to die. But you have collected so much wealth. Why are you so morose? Will not all this wealth go with you? Won't you take all these opulences with you? No, said the king. And then the sadhu replied, then you have not earned the real wealth. You have not earned the real wealth that will follow you. That is bhakti. Dhana, paramartha dhana, that is prema dhana. The material wealth is subject to destruction. One who has not earned the real wealth is the greatest fool. So you are the greatest fool of this kingdom. And so you deserve this gold coin as a reward. So just like the king, we all are fools to accumulate wealth and other opulence. Because finally at the time of death, we won't be able to take a tiny needle. What to talk of the wealth that we accumulate? Whatever goes with us is a spiritual account, not our bank accounts. So instead of working like a dog, we have to think about accumulating the prema dhana for Krishna. Because nothing else will follow us at the time of our last breath. So Srila Prabhupada advises us, material possessions, however alluring they may be, cannot be permanent possessions. Therefore, one has to voluntarily give up such possessions, or one has to leave such possessions at the time of quitting this material body. So the sane man, he knows that all material possessions are temporary, and that the best use of such possession is to engage them in the service of the Lord, so that the Lord may be pleased with him and award him a permanent place in his Param Dhama. That's why in 3rd canto, 30th chapter, 3rd verse, Prabhupada says, the misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent, and the attractions of home, land, and wealth, which are in relationship to that body, are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. The Prabhupada quotes in the purport, the materialist thinks that persons engaged in Krishna consciousness are crazy fellows, wasting time by chanting Hare Krishna. How does he say? Prabhupada says the materialist thinks, all the materialists, they think that persons engaged in Krishna consciousness are crazy fellows, wasting their time by chanting Hare Krishna. But actually, he does not know that he himself is in the darkest region of craziness because of accepting his body as permanent. And in relation to his body, he accepts his home, his country, his society, and all other paraphernalia as permanent. This materialistic acceptance of the permanency of home, land, etc. is called illusion of Maya. So let us all seek the blessings of Guru, Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, so that we will be able to engage our body and soul in the service of Krishna and not in the service of Maya. So just before closing the finals, my Guru Maharaj always used to insist practicing the instructions in the Shastras to the best of our abilities. So that is the most difficult part of devotional service, but also only way to advance in the path of bhakti, following instructions. See, one of the scriptures it said, even after studying the Shastra seriously, if one does not follow the instructions given in it, he remains a fool only. See, just like when one is suffering from some illness and meditates on the best medicines, but does not take it internally, it does not cure his disease. Similarly, even if one becomes highly learned in Shastras, but does not practice them, he will continue to remain a fool. Very nice example. See, for our bodily diseases, we take medicines as prescribed by the doctors. For our psychological and spiritual upkeep of health, that also we need as medicines in the form of scriptural injunctions. And the doctor is our spiritual master. If we simply follow the prescription of medicines, we will automatically be cured of the mental disease of sense gratification. like distractions, laziness, anger, greed, everything will go off. Just follow the instructions. That's why Prabhupada is the only saint in the modern age who insisted so much on the practice of Shastric injunctions. And our gurus, they too are very particular that we practice the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam in our day-to-day life. They showed us the way through their personal examples. So let us all pray the lotus feet of Guru, Prabhupada, and Krishna, that even though we are struggling to follow the simple instructions, still they may pardon us and keep us in their safe and loving shelter. Stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go. Thank you, Guru Mataji. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpataru kripa sindhu vacha. Patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnava. If you have anything, any questions, anything to share, please. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. So thank you, Uttam Namar Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank
you very much, Ramchandra Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That Ankaji, AU, and then what is the other one? Third one?
M is
That is,
not
we
much.
can take it as Om. That was
Yes.
very nice.
Yes, thank you. Very good. Thank you, Prabhu Mataji. We have no questions, anything to share. Thank you, Shanta Gonda Prabhu, Chetan Kumar Prabhu, Swati Mataji, Balaji Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, okay, take care, be safe, have a wonderful day. So, we are all engaged in this wonderful Purushottam Mass. We've got an opportunity to increase our devotion service. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Nice talking.